What's up guys, my name is Ace, and with Modern Warfare 3's realistic life cycle coming to an end soon, today I wanted to do a recap of my top 40 setups in this game. So I'm going to be going through each weapon class and picking out my favorite weapons and setups to be using right now in the game's current state. At this point in the game's life cycle, I don't anticipate too many more big weapon balancing changes. We may see like one or two more, but I don't really anticipate anything is going to be so big that it totally changes up these guns. And since there are so many that I'm sharing today, I'm not going to be diving into great detail with each of them. I'm not going to read out every single attachment. I'm not going to show you all of the stats of these. This is just designed to be sort of a quick reference for those of you guys that are maybe looking to branch out a bit and try some new setups that you haven't used yet that are very solid, and I think many of these you'll be very pleasantly surprised with if you haven't tried them yet. And one more thing to point out before we get into this list, since I know some people are going to point this out, this list isn't about variety. These are my favorite setups to use, and as a result, there's going to be certain attachments that you just see over and over and over again, like the Quartermaster Suppressor, and the simple reason behind that is there are certain attachments that I feel are just no-brainers, especially for my particular playstyle and my preferences. And that's another thing as well. Feel free to make adjustments to these. You don't necessarily just have to copy and paste what I'm using. I have optimized these very well for use for myself, but that may not suit you perfectly, and that's totally fine. And with that out of the way, let's start this off with the assault rifle category, and the first one I'm going to show here is a gun that is still considered to be meta by many. This is the STG-44, and this is the particular build that I really like using on it. It's just really nicely balanced, keeps you off the radar, and you're actually going to be seeing this trend a lot. It's going to be balanced and keep you off the radar, in most cases at least. But that one feels great and could easily be considered meta. Next, we've got a gun that used to be really common and really powerful. This is the BP-50, and honestly with this gun, I'm a little surprised I don't see it used too often, especially without the conversion kit. It was insanely powerful when it first launched. It did catch some nerfs, and I think those nerfs are what pushed people away, but even after those nerfs, this is still a very solid gun, and I'm still able to find a ton of success with it, so I did want to include it on this list. After that, we got my favorite balanced strafing assault rifle setup in the game with the MTZ-556. Using that Jack Cutthroat stock, this one is so good at strafing in gunfights, and I really enjoy using that. It's a nice change of pace from the other playstyles that you would typically use with an assault rifle. Then another gun that I feel has largely just been forgotten about, but it's still excellent. This is the SVA-545, and I really like this setup because you can be highly aggressive with it. You can almost treat this like an SMG. Just make sure you're landing those 2 shots with the hyperburst. As for the next one, of course, there's going to be an MCW on this list, and for me personally, I actually prefer it with the Jack Raven kit. Keeping in mind, I'm a pub player, I'm not a ranked player, and this is the setup that I really enjoy using with that Jack Raven kit. Then getting into the Modern Warfare 2 assault rifles, the M4 has actually been pretty solid throughout the entire life cycle of this game, but it has caught several buffs over time as well, so it's even better now. And in my opinion at least, this is a very solid way to run the M4. On a similar note, we've got the M13B. This has also been an excellent assault rifle, especially as far as Modern Warfare 2 guns go. I actually think this was the best Modern Warfare 2 gun for the majority of the life cycle of Modern Warfare 3, and it's still excellent to this date. And then after that, let's get into some aftermarket parts in the assault rifle category that I enjoy using. With the M16 using the Jack Patriot kit, this particular setup is laser accurate and really enjoyable to use. This is one of those ones that I feel has been flying under the radar. I never see this used at all, and it is really fun to use. And then finally, for the assault rifle category, I've got the Holger 556 with the Jack Backsaw kit, and I consider this my SMG build. Even though you've got a 50-round mag, the handling and time to kill stats right up close are more like an SMG, and it's super fun to use, definitely a nice change of pace. And that's going to wrap it up for the assault rifles I put together. And just a note, if you don't see a particular gun on this list, it doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean I don't like it. I just had to make sure I was keeping this at least reasonable, and I was just selecting the ones that I really do enjoy the most. And now let's get into the battle rifle category, and of course, we're going to start this off with the D-Tier 30-06. Even after the couple nerfs that this has received, it's still, in my opinion, the best battle rifle in the game, and one of the better guns in the game still. And this is the particular setup I really landed on as a nice balanced all-arounder. Next up, the BAS-B. While this gun isn't nearly as good as it once was when the game first launched, this thing was absolutely on top for the first month or two of the game's life cycle, it is still a very good gun that you can definitely find some success and enjoyment with, and therefore I feel it did deserve a spot on this list. And then this just leaves us with the FTAC Recon. This one can be used in full auto or semi-auto, whatever you prefer. It's actually really good in both fire modes now, after several buffs. And if you guys haven't used the FTAC Recon yet, especially recently in Modern Warfare 3, I think you're going to be very pleasantly surprised with how powerful this gun is. In either case, let's get into the SMG category, which is my preferred attachment category in this game. I'm definitely more of an SMG player than anything else. And let's start this off with the static HV, which a lot of people still consider to be meta. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that after the nerfs. However, I will still say it's an excellent gun, very nice and versatile. It's a good all-arounder, and this is the build that I'm still using. Nothing's really changed on this, despite the nerfs that it's seen. Similarly, with the Super E46, this one also saw some nerfs fairly recently, yet it's still a very solid gun to use, and it definitely still deserves a spot on this list for me. And this is the particular build I like using. This is my balanced strafe build. Then we've got the Ram 9. This one has always been a really solid SMG. I don't know why I don't see it used more, honestly. I think it's really good, and this is the build that I like using with that. After that, of course, we're going to share a Rival 9 setup here. I've tried to avoid using this a little bit because I just used it so much when the game first came out. This used to just be the top dog in the SMG category, and honestly, it's still way up there. I've just sort of fallen off because I got bored of using it all the time. And don't worry, I will also be showing a setup with the JAK Headhunter kit in a little bit. But after that, we've got the Striker. I still consider this to be a great all-arounder. Definitely not the best SMG in the entire game or anything, but still a really solid, versatile choice that really tends to excel at like mid-ranges for SMGs. And then getting into the Modern Warfare 2 SMGs, the ISO 9 recently saw some really nice buffs, and this thing is just laser accurate with a solid time to kill potential out to a really long range, while also having an incredible time to kill potential in super close quarter situations. And while the ISO 45 also got a buff, personally, I've been leaning more toward using the ISO 9, and that's why I put that on this list and not the ISO 45, even though that's still a very solid choice. After that, for Modern Warfare 2 SMGs, the BAS-P has been quite a solid choice for a while now. It does have a little bit more recoil than you would tend to see with some of these other setups, but still a very solid choice for close to medium ranges. And then the Vel 46 is still a very solid SMG. It has been throughout the entire life cycle of this game. Really, the only thing that holds it back is the fact that you have Modern Warfare 2 attachments on it, but sticking with these particular attachments has been very successful for me. After that, let's get into the aftermarket parts setups for SMGs, and the first one I want to share here is the JAK Scimitar kit on the FJX Horus. This is still one of my favorite SMG setups to use in the entire game. So incredibly versatile. You get great mobility considering the fact that you also get a 60-round mag. It's super accurate, and I just love using this one. Then, of course, we've got the Rival 9 with the JAK Headhunter kit, and this is the setup I like using. I know some people like using an optic on that, and I totally understand that. If you want to, I would say drop that 40-round mag and go with an optic, or stick with the iron sight, since it does have a very solid iron sight on it. And then finally, for the SMGs on my list here, I've got the Lockman Shroud with the JAK Decimator kit, and this one has a ridiculous time to kill potential up close at just 225 milliseconds, which is pretty hard to beat if we're talking body shots. And now that we've got SMGs out of the way, let's move on to shotguns, which I don't use shotguns a whole lot, but I still wanted to share the few setups with you that I would lean toward if I was going to be using a shotgun. And the first one is with the Reclaimer 18. With this setup, you're going to want to use it in pump action and aim down sight anytime you're stretching that range out even a little bit. You have the potential of getting some pretty insane one-shot kills with this. Then for a gun that I find is just a little more consistent overall, it doesn't have the same potential, but it's more consistent all around as a shotgun. This is my Lockwood 680 all-around setup, which is really good for either hip firing up close and personal or aiming down sight if you start stretching those ranges out a bit. And then finally for shotguns, even though this doesn't perform like a shotgun, we've got the KV Broadside with the JAK Jawbreaker kit, which is more like a Marksman Rifle. And this is the particular setup I like using to really cut down on that gun kick, since that is pretty extreme on this gun. As for LMGs, one of my favorite LMGs to use here is the TAC Eradicator. With this particular stealth build, it performs a bit more like an assault rifle rather than an LMG, and the time to kill potential is absolutely insane, especially when we're looking at like mid-range fights. It carries out an amazing time to kill to a solid range, as long as you're hitting with those initial few shots. Then after that, we've got the Bruin Mark 9 with the JAK Shadow Titan kit. I really like that particular kit on this, and this is the setup that I like using. It's just a solid all-arounder when it comes to an LMG. As for the Pulemyot, I really like using that with the Bullpup kit. You can see a trend here. I like turning my LMGs more into like LMG assault rifle hybrids here, and this is the setup that I like using on that. And this just leaves us with one last LMG setup, and this is the GG58 LSW with the JAK Nightshade kit. I still consider this to be one of the best guns in the entire game, and yet not a whole lot of people have really caught on to that fact. It's just such an accurate, versatile, fast-killing gun with excellent mobility as well. And with that, let's move into the Marksman Rifle category, which is admittedly one of my least used categories in this game. I'm not a big Marksman Rifle player, but if I'm using the Kar 98, this is the build that I like going for. It just helps keep that flinch in check while still having a solid aim down sight speed. Then, recently, the SPR 208 saw some amazing buffs that give it a really solid one-hit kill potential, especially on closer range maps. And this setup is really nice to use. It gives you a nice iron sight with a really solid aim down sight speed. I actually consider this to be better than the SAB after the recent SAB nerfs. Then after that, the TAC-M, I think, has been flying under the radar a little bit. This is a super solid marksman rifle in this game that not too many people use. It's got a really nice, consistent 2-shot kill. And then finally, for a marksman rifle that I actually do use on a fairly regular basis, this is the DM56 with the Jack Signal Burst kit. And this thing is insanely accurate and kills very, very quickly if you can get that one burst kill, which honestly, in most close to mid-range gunfights, you should be getting a one burst kill with this. As for sniper rifles, again, not much of a sniper here. I will snipe every now and then, but for most of the 6v6 maps in this game, and also with the pacing of this game, sniper rifles generally aren't going to be your best bet to use. But if I am going to be using a sniper rifle, it'll likely be one of these three builds. So let's start it off with the MWIII all-around build. This one's just an excellent sniper setup overall. It's the same story with the XRK Stalker, just a nice solid all-around setup if you're going to be sniping and actually treating it like a traditional sniper a bit more. And then finally for the sniper category, the SPX-80 is a very solid choice and has been since launch. There's really nothing wrong with this. And this setup, again, is just a nice balanced build for 6v6 sniping. So that right there wraps it up for all of the primary weapon types that I wanted to cover. Next, let's get into my top 3 handguns to use. And the first one is the one you're going to be seeing 90% of the time on my setups. This is the Core 45 with this combination of attachments. If you've got a solid trigger finger, you can get an incredible time to kill potential with this. It's super accurate as well, and just an excellent gun to have in your pocket, again, if you have a decent trigger finger. Then sometimes I want to have more like a pocket SMG, and therefore I'm going to go with the Renetti using that Jack Ferocity carbine kit. So this is full auto with a 50-round drum, and it's just as good as some of the SMGs in this game, honestly. And then finally, just for fun, sometimes I really like pulling out the tier with the Jack Beholder rifle kit. This thing is just a headshot monster. It's definitely not the most versatile of the secondaries, but it's super fun to use, and you can actually find a lot of success. I've had no problems leading lobbies just using this particular gun, and I do find it quite enjoyable. Now, I know a bunch of Modern Warfare 2 pistols did recently get buffed, and I would say they're much more viable than they were before, but at the end of the day, these are still the 3 pistols that I will tend to lean toward for my setups. And with that, that is finally going to wrap it up for the top 40 weapon setups that I'm enjoying using in Modern Warfare 3. There's a whole lot of selection there for you guys to try out, and I would recommend picking a few guns on this list that you maybe haven't used at all or in a while, and see how it goes for you. I think you'll be pretty pleasantly surprised, because for all of these setups, I feel quite confident, at least if I am using that particular class of weapons. Obviously, at the end of the day, most of my playtime is going to be with assault rifles and SMGs. And with that, this is where I'm curious to hear from you guys in those comments down below. What do you guys think about this list? Were there any guns that you fully expected to be on this list that just didn't make it there? Just let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.